Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet, so you don't miss any of our updates. Alright, let's dive straight into today's breaking news and gist, because this one is heavy and it matters. So, what's going on? Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous peoples of Biafra, IPOB, has officially entered his defense in his terrorism trial at the Federal High Court, Abuja. Now, why is this interesting? Because he didn't just say, "I'm going to defend myself." He's made a bold list of 23 witnesses, split into two categories: ordinary but material, and vital and compellable. Among his listed compellable witnesses are major names in Nigerian public life, serving ministers, past chiefs of army staff, governors. For example, Wike, Minister of FCT, Dave Umahi, Minister of Works, Buratai, a retired Chief of Army Staff, Abubakar Malami, former Attorney General, and a few others. So, let's unpack what this means, why it's important, and where we go from here. First, what's the status of his trial? Kanu has long been charged with terrorism-related offenses. The prosecution says his separatist agitation and alleged incitement of violence in the southeast of Nigeria justify the charges. The court earlier dismissed his no-case submission and found him medically fit to stand trial. So, the stage is set. He must now open his defense. That's what he has just done. Second, why the witnesses list? By submitting his list, Kanu is signaling that he intends to bring evidence from high-profile persons. The compellable witnesses label means he seeks those the court can summon under Section 232 of the Evidence Act, 2011. He's telling the court, "I intend to testify, I intend to bring witnesses, and I want sufficient time." He asked for 90 days to complete this defense. Third, so, what's at stake? The move has major implications. 1. If these key figures appear, the trial will escalate in complexity. 2. Politically, this is huge. It drags senior public figures into the spotlight, perhaps forcing disclosure of government behavior, intelligence agency activities, security matters. 3. From a legal angle, the burden is shifting. He will testify, put his case. The prosecution will be watching closely. Fourth, what are the risks and challenges? For Kanu, assembling these witnesses will not be easy. Some may refuse, some may be unavailable. The court may deny some subpoenas. Time is also tight. The court initially allowed only 6 consecutive days for the defense to open and close. Kanu's request for 90 days may or may not be granted. For the government and prosecution, such a wide defense strategy may complicate matters, open new lines of inquiry, prolong the trial. Fifth, why are people talking about it? Because it raises questions like, what exactly will these witnesses say? Were they involved in decisions or actions relevant to Kanu's case? Example, Buratai, as former COAS, if he's subpoenaed, what role might he have regarding military operations in the southeast? Wike, as FCT minister, what government communication or decisions might he testify about? These are heavy public interest topics. Sixth, what does this mean for the separation agenda of IPOB? Kanu's defense appears ready to contextualize his actions as political, perhaps linked to grievances in the southeast, colonial-era injustices, etc. If he testifies, he may present narrative around freedom of expression, self-determination. The government will likely argue national security, territorial integrity. The conflict between those narratives is what this defense is going to bring to a full view. Seventh, what's next? The court will decide schedule for defense opening. If the request for 90 days is accepted, we may see months of hearings, many witnesses. Meanwhile, public protest continues. There is the Number Free Nnamdi Kanu movement. Recently, Omoyele Sowore led protests in Abuja demanding his release. So, public pressure and court process are happening side by side. Let me engage you. What do you think is this strategy by Kanu, a masterstroke or a trap? Are these named witnesses going to appear, or just names to show strength? I want you in the comments. Share your thoughts. Also, if you like this breakdown, hit that thumbs up and subscribe so you stay updated as this story evolves. Let's bring in some context. Historically, high-profile political trials in Nigeria that involve security agencies and ministers often saw delays, complications, and political ramifications. So this isn't just about Kanu, it's about broader issues around how the state deals with secessionist movements, rights to protest, and the rule of law. The naming of senior intelligence and security service heads by Kanu signals he wants this trial as a platform for his broader case. Also, some commentators will say this is a defensive posture. Naming many witnesses might dilute his case or scare him into a longer process. Others will say it demonstrates seriousness. Either way, it's a gamble. Another point, the list includes both federal actors, ministers, intelligence heads, and state governors. For example, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, Hope Uzodinma of Imo. That's interesting because it crosses regional and state lines. Why involve Lagos or Imo governors? Possibly to show national dimension of his claims or involvement of national authorities. It raises questions. What events or actions took place in Lagos or Imo relevant to his case? The tree of events may extend beyond the southeast. Yet another angle. Some will ask, will Kanu's defense tactics affect his supporters or escalate tension in the southeast? Because when trials of this nature drag on, community sentiment can heat up. Security forces will watch the reactions. Protesters may respond, especially if they feel the system isn't being fair. Okay, now, closing this first part, we will continue following this closely. I will bring you updates when the court gives dates, when any of these witnesses are served subpoenas, and if we see prominent names deciding not to show up or challenging the summons. Make sure you've subscribed and turned on notifications. You won't want to miss when the defense kicks off in full. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, like it, share with friends, and comment your thoughts below. What do you think the outcome will be? Will Kanu succeed in this defense strategy, or will the prosecution counter it effectively? So, after the last hearing, where Kanu officially entered his defense and presented that long witness list, his legal team made it clear. They're ready to go all out. They said the reason for naming such powerful figures, people like Wike, Umahi, Buratai, and even Sanwo-Olu, is to show that what happened to Kanu was not just a simple case of one man against the state. They're trying to prove that the matter involves decisions made by top political and military officials, especially regarding his 2021 arrest and rendition from Kenya. And that's one major point a lot of people are talking about online, the question of extraordinary rendition. Remember, Kanu was initially in the UK, later in Kenya, and then, somehow he appeared in Nigeria under controversial circumstances. His team claims he was abducted and brought back illegally, while the government says he was lawfully returned. So when Kanu says he wants people like former Army Chief Buratai and former AGF Malami to testify, it might be connected to how he was brought back. That's why observers say the witness list could expose more details about that operation. And, if that happens, the government might not be too comfortable. But again, this is Nigeria, so whether those big names actually appear in court is another story entirely. Now, here's another part. We need to look at the political timing. As you know, 2025 is already heating up politically. The 2027 elections are not too far, and many politicians are positioning themselves for relevance. Bringing someone like Wike, who is currently the FCT minister and a major political force, into the witness list immediately makes this case political, whether anyone admits it or not. It means this trial is no longer just a legal issue, it's entering the political field. People are asking, will Wike really go to court to testify? Will the federal government even allow that? Remember, Any testimony that contradicts official narratives could create political waves. So, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes tension around this. Now, let's also talk about the Southeast reaction. Since Kanu was detained, the region has been tense. Many residents feel that his continuous detention has worsened the insecurity in the area. IPOB has repeatedly denied involvement in some of the violent incidents there, but the fear and tension remain. So, people in the Southeast are watching this defense closely, hoping that maybe it brings some closure or at least sheds light on the truth. On social media, supporters are celebrating the move, calling it a smart defense, while critics are saying it's a delay tactic. Some Nigerians are saying, look, Kanu is just trying to drag everyone down with him, while others argue, no, he's exposing those who had a hand in his arrest and the chaos in the region. Now, from a legal point of view, it's interesting. The court has to balance between allowing him fair defense and preventing unnecessary delay. The judge might decide that not all 23 witnesses are relevant, or that only some can testify under certain conditions, especially if any testimony touches on national security. And you see, this is where it gets really tricky. If Kanu's defense starts to touch on classified operations or confidential state matters, the court may decide to hold closed-door sessions for parts of the trial. That's legal, but it also means the public won't get to hear everything, and that, in turn, could cause more speculation online. Please, if you're still following this gist, kindly like this video. It really helps the channel and makes sure more Nigerians can see what's going on. And don't forget to subscribe because we still have a lot to unpack. Now, beyond the courtroom, this case is already affecting the security and political narrative in Nigeria. Some activists are saying, if the government handles this matter wrongly, it could affect unity and increase distrust among regions. That's why many are calling for transparency. Meanwhile, Kanu's lawyers are also pushing for him to be transferred out of DSS custody and placed either under house arrest or in a correctional center, claiming his health is deteriorating. The court, however, insists that medical professionals from government hospitals can attend to him where he is. This part has been dragging for months. Let's not forget, every time this case takes a new turn, it affects the economy of the Southeast too. There are still some businesses that shut down on Mondays due to the sit-at-home fear, even though IPOB has disowned it. That's how deeply connected this case is to everyday life. Now, here's something else. Kanu's move might indirectly put pressure on the federal government to consider a political solution again. You remember when several Igbo elders, like Pa Mbazulike Amechi before his death, and other leaders, appealed to President Tinubu's predecessor to release Kanu for the sake of peace? That conversation might resurface. And if some of these witnesses like Wike or Umahi actually appear and say anything conciliatory, it could reopen discussions for an out-of-court resolution. But the big question remains, will the federal government agree to that kind of political dialogue, or will they prefer to let the trial play out completely? That's where public opinion and international attention come in. Now, let's make this interactive. What do you think? Should the government allow a political settlement for peace, or should the trial go on till the end to set a precedent? I want to hear your honest opinion in the comments. Remember, you're watching Dr. Sam bringing you the real-time gist as it's happening. Hit the like button now and subscribe if you haven't yet, so you don't miss the next update, because part 3 of this gist will go even deeper into the possible outcomes, international reactions, and what this means for Nigeria's justice system.